You've got this terminology down. You've got this expertise in there. Retrospective coherence, where you're sort of checking and playing and working with these biases and heuristics and factors already. So I'm conscious that anyone who might be listening, that's, oh, okay, I'm opening a door here, and there's a territory that means that I've got to try and learn a little bit more. I've got to get in there and understand how decisions are made. Um, have you got that sort of simple version of a good decision? What's the difference between a sense of a decision that we can look back and say there's good process, there's good sense around that versus
Mm,
not?
mm. I think the important bit there is that what we're trying to do is improve our decision making with the aim that that improves better decisions. So frequently what we will do is that we will look at the outcome of a decision and use that as the determinant of whether it was a good decision. But you and I will both have countless examples of where a really poor decision and poor decision making process has luckily got to a good outcome. And equally, there's been really good decision making and decision process that has led to a bad outcome. Um, so I think that just looking solely at the outcomes just too blunt, far too blunt. We see that all the time in sport. So a good decision, if I'm interpreting your question correctly, a good decision is one where the process is appropriate for the decision to be made at hand. So, having checking your biases and stakeholder engagement, all those sorts of things, really important in one form of decision-making context. But if you're in a burning building, you ain't got time for that. So that would be the wrong decision-making process. The right decision-making process there is to get the hell out of there, to listen to your instincts and go. So I think that the nuance, Steve, there is understanding the context that you're in. So I quite like the Cynefin framework by Dave Snowden. And if we look at a simple decision-making environment where there is a really obvious link between cause and effect, that is the realm of best practice. In sport, we talk about best practice far too loosely. It only really applies in a simple context where we know that there is one best way of doing this thing. Think about calibrating a force plate or pumping up a punctured tire or something. So there's a really clear link between what you need to do, the steps you need to do, and the outcome. I would posit that in sport, that situation, I would posit in life, that situation doesn't exist that often. It certainly exists, which is why we have checklists. But in complex environments, that's not what we see.
Okay.
The next is complicated, and there's a link between cause and effect, and it's a bit like if you've got a motorcycle. I don't know how to make a motorcycle. I don't know, maybe you do, but maybe you don't know how to make a motorcycle. But in theory, what we should be able to do is take the motorcycle apart, panel by panel, nut by nut, pedal by pedal, throttle by brake, and put it all in a line and put it all together again. So there is cause and effect there. There is a linear chain of things that you can do to build something. And that's the realm of experts. And that definitely exists. So if we think about ACL injury and surgery for that, there are a number of different ways that you can do that. There's not one best practice way. There are a number of different things you can do. There's parts of the surgery that is best practice, like scrubbing your hands before you go into the operating theatre. But the overall journey is complicated rather than complex. But then we step into complex, and that's the realm that most people, and absolutely leaders, sit in most of the time. And that's where there is where it's a bunch of separate but inseparable parts. It's an area where we need to, where we can't see prospectively the link between cause and effect. The only way we can see the link between cause and effect, if we ever can, is through the rearview mirror, not through the windshield. So that's retrospective coherence. So the sport example will be so-and-so got injured, and then you look back and you say, there was a bit of a spike in his or her sprint meters, and they slept poorly the night before, and then 3 nights before that, they were on the booze, and all those things added up, and now they've got a hamstring injury. Okay. You can't possibly put that together beforehand, but you can see it potentially in the rearview mirror. And that's the area of experimentation. So the right decision-making process there is to run a whole heap of safe to fail pilots and see what sticks and how you where you're getting traction and moving forward there. And it's where you need to check in your biases and lean on analogies. So we're trying to get more women in high performance coaching. That is a wicked, complex problem. Who else has tried to make progress in this area? Well, let's look at mining. Let's look at defense. Look at surgery and see what we can take from those things and apply it to sport. And then the final area is chaos. And the best way to explain that, or the best analogy for that, is COVID, of course. And you say, right, we've got a sense that there's something we don't know about in China. It doesn't look good. We're going to shut the borders. So it's a real clear authoritarian way of making decisions. Wartime strategy, that sort of stuff. And that's good, but you can't make decisions like that forever because the population rebel, people feel oppressed, all those sorts of things. So a long answer, and I apologize for that, but I guess there is no one way to make a good decision. There's lots of ways, and it depends on the context. One of the biggest things that is important is having a diversity of experiences and a diversity of perspectives on an issue, which is why having a diverse group of people around the decision-making table is so important as well. So long answer to a very simple question. I apologize.
No,